So Libor, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. You're the third person I'm gonna do a podcast with.
Oh, I'm honored.
Same here, and it's a funny anecdote that this morning we were talking to each other, talking about longevity and health, and we were both saying our voice is a little bit scratchy at the moment, whether we should postpone and whether we should go ahead. But we then decided it's the time of the year where it's probably everybody has a little bit of a virus or a little bit of a cold, and we're going to push through it to not postpone it, and I'm very happy that we're here. So
me too.
Welcome again. So Libor, we just returned from Mallorca.
That's right.
We had a workshop with 8 CEOs from 8 different countries. And we went there together because I had the objective and the vision to tell them more about longevity and biohacks, and because that's the big buzzwords at the moment, which keep every CEO at night awake and not to lose out, not to do something which is against longevity. And we had a real fun day near the sea in Mallorca. One of the guys even jumped into the sea at the end. I hoped we would all jump into the sea, but some of us again had some issues with colds and so on. But it was a fun day, and I thought what we learned on this day from you was so interesting that I want to make it available also to our patients at Concierge and talk about it.
Wonderful,
so, great. So maybe Libor, you can do it much better than I. Could you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we deep dive into the topic?
Thank you for that, Wolfram. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to have an opportunity to be guest here in the Concierge Medicine podcast. Actually, my pursuit for health started with me being like a little child with very poor health, because I got some troubles with the immunity system from very, very young age. And I was frequently ill. I suffered from severe allergies. Later I was diagnosed with asthma and so on. And I was taking several, like maybe 4 or 5 medications when I was like at the first grade of basic school, which, as you can imagine, is not the happiest start of the childhood.
Sure.
And I was somehow maybe weird kid because I started to research how to do something about it, right, in this very, very young age, because also I didn't feel very well in my body, and I didn't feel well among, let's say, other people, which definitely doesn't bring much happiness to life, right?
Sure.
So I was interested in different styles of medicine, in Western medicine, but also in Eastern medicine, like Chinese medicine, which I was studying.
And you even spent time in China and learning Chinese.
Yeah, I did. So when I was 19, afterwards, I started to study Chinese language, and I graduated at a school like Chinese Cultural Studies of China, and I've been to China several times. And I really enjoyed this like journey, which was born in maybe quite troublesome circumstances, but it helped me to really pay long-term attention to those topics of health, prevention, longevity on the very practical terms. And that's something what I really enjoy now. I can share with other people as well. Great.
And you do workshops for companies, for managers. You do coaching. You coach several people I call my friends, and so that's also how you spend your life. And you wrote a book, of course.
Yeah, book is just currently is available only in the Czech language. We are talking about some opportunities, maybe how to make it work in English as well. But yeah, most of my life now is about like coaching, helping companies have a healthier people inside, because we as a people, right, are building companies and society. So I'm a great believer in like everybody of us is like very important cell of the society, and every single cell needs to be healthy to build a healthy society and healthy companies.
And when I understood you're really successful is when I looked at how many followers you have on LinkedIn, and it was something like, is it 27,000 or is it something like?
Currently I'm getting closer to 11,000.
Okay, but anyway, it's a high number. I just remember it was a high number. And
I guess it's fine for somebody who's not owner of a big company,
and especially in a relatively small country, having most of the followers in the Czech language, if not all of them, and because you post mostly in Czech.
I post only in the Czech language.
So for that, that would be in a country like Germany. This would be like X times 7 or 8. So I think it's pretty impressive.
In Czech Republic, I think those are good numbers. I'm using LinkedIn from my high school studies, actually, maybe university studies, early university studies. And actually, recently I was talking on one of the biggest conferences about self-development in Czech Republic. And its creator has a talk about social sites in there. And he really made me happy by the saying that LinkedIn is only one platform which is like sensible to use, because it doesn't steals your attention that much as, TikTok and Instagram. So I'm happy to be bounded with this social site. Right?
And when was the first time you heard the term longevity?
That's a good question.
It's not very long for me. And I'm in this business, in this industry of healthcare. But how was it for you? When did you first come across longevity?
Actually, my first exposure to the word longevity was in culture studies of China, because in Chinese culture, the longevity is something what they talk about pretty often.
What's the Chinese for longevity? Can you?
Sometimes they call it like long spring, like Changchun. Which was favorite name for some Taoist monks, because it's also be forever young, as we have a song, right? So you can be forever young. And in Taoist cultures in China, it was not some theory, but they were striving to, keep their life force for a very long time and even become immortals, which is something what I was writing some of my thesis about.
Interesting.
Because there are serious, let's say, science and training, mostly based spiritually, so it's something else than medicine as we approach it today. But in China, they have very long-term culture of achieving even immortality. So they're talking about longevity being a good condition for long time.
So do you think the Western medicine stole it from the Chinese, the idea of longevity and the word as such, or?
I believe the longevity is something was very natural for people to want to, live a long life. And there's a good question, what does it actually mean? Because when I talk about longevity, some people imagine when they are 95 years old, lying on the bed, and having all those medications and so on. And so sometimes we need to talk about something difference between health span and lifespan.
I just wanted to say, that's why at Concierge we really say we want to increase the health span. And subsequently the lifespan as part of this concept, because just the lifespan without the health span, it's not something to necessarily aim for. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Wolfram, that's a very important topic for people to really know. So that's very good that you educate so much people in this regard, also in the field of medicine, because that's the field when we need to talk about the most.
Because you can also take people's fear about the age, because many people from past experience, they have the fear that from what they saw with their grandparents, that old age means suffering. And it even starts when nowadays you travel to Florida in winter, you see people who are in their 80s and 90s playing golf and being fitter than I am in terms of making a perfect swing and playing 18 holes without any problems. So that's kind of, you see these concepts in reality. You see it in certain cultures more than you see it here, maybe in the Czech Republic. But I think it's an education as well to what people can aim for and what's in store for them.
For sure, and we definitely see that there's health is very connected to the education itself.
Of course.
Because in Czech system, and there are a lot of complaints, about that we don't emphasize physical development much, because kids are sitting in the school, and a lot of my friends, even business leaders, are usually frankly saying that if you have kids who are not attending school, they're running whole day around, right? They're healthy, they are vigorous, active. And now when they finish first grade and they're sitting near the table, a little bit like this, second grade, third grade, and you see visibly that the posture is getting worse, and it's something what's very, very troublesome, definitely.
Reminds me to sit better.
Yeah, always like this, right? Yeah. And I was recently talking to the one of the biggest TV stations in the Czech Republic, having a lot of employees, and they're really interested in healthy, the system, the healthy body, let's say, because a lot of people have back problems and, painful apparatus for movement. And that's something what we need not only to do maybe some stretching and so on, which is quite well known, but also some strength exercises. And it's something what we are talking about in the longevity sphere as well.
And it's one of the main topics I want to come back to.
Good.
But first I wanted to ask you, because when I first met you, I asked you, why do you swim in cold water and why do you swim under the ice? And you said something like, because I can. Tell me what your relationship with the cold. You do things like leading some of my friends up Snezhka in shorts in the middle of the winter. Tell us what cold does to the body and what does it do to you?
Yeah, that's actually one of my most favorite topics, because if we get back like maybe 10,000 years ago or 100 or 10,000 years ago or even maybe more, we find people who are like physically very strong and resilient, mainly against cold, because if you go camping outside even during like summer, nights are usually cold, so most of the days during the year you face cold outside. Even at Majorca, it was cold in the evening, right?
Definitely.
You wouldn't take swimsuit.
It was January after all.
Yeah.
Beginning of February. So yes.
But it was like plus 17 degrees Celsius, or maybe more during the day. But night was like pretty chilly,
it was
right?
maybe 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. Yes, indeed.
And this is conditions we were living in for most of our history, and the history of human species is pretty long. It's like 300,000 years of evolution and development, right? And we were living in pretty harsh conditions most of the time, which we don't feel like that today, because, you have central heating and all this like high-tech equipment and so on.
So what made you jump into the ice for the first time?
For first time, it's many years ago. I was starting with intense ice cold therapy in 2016 when I was suffering some, let's say, mental health problems after like breaking up with my long-term girlfriend. And I was using it as a training for, improving mood, improving like mental state mainly. But then I was seeing like many very, very positive benefits to my body as well.
Let's stay at the mental health, because it's fascinating, because I heard many people saying that. And often antidepressants take 3-4 weeks to kick in, and you have a bad day on a simple level, for example, and you go into ice cold water after sauna, and after 2 minutes everything seems to be washed away, and you have a clear mind, and you don't have any negativity. You feel even kind of the endorphins and the dopamine floating your brain. So that's what you found?
Definitely, and that was so strong realization for me that I made it my career, my profession afterwards. Just like sharing with people how to do this, really, because I saw that I did cold showers, like pretty cold showers, once or twice a day actually, and I did them for a pretty long time. I did like several minutes, like not 2 or 3.
You still do it every day, or?
I do it when I want, actually. It's a very interesting topic. How often do you do it, right? And
how often do you do it?
Yeah, and I personally do it when I want.
Right, and maybe also when you need it, when you feel things are not going very well. I'm kind of my slowing myself down. There's some mood issues, and then you have your own tool. You have your own natural tool to actually turn it around. No, that's
and that's very, as you say, Wolfram. It's natural, which is like so valuable, right? Because it doesn't mean you're not messing up with the biochemistry in a bad way, right? Because I was just talking today with one doctor about melatonin, and he told me, we really want to educate people so they don't take melatonin every single day, but they understand it is a tool. Maybe when you got jet lag,
when you need to change
travel
your
from
time
Prague to New York.
Exactly.
So you need to know how to use it. Right? It's not like mindless tool. With ice cold therapy, that's wonderful benefit is that your body is actually playing the biochemical game, right? So you don't do anything unnatural, right? Your body produces just the hormonal cocktail, which it can from its own sources, and you become much more happier. And there are studies which are showing that in certain cases of very intense cold exposure, you get like 2.5 times more dopamine, so 250% decrease of dopamine.
Wow.
Increase, it's going up, right, of course. And norepinephrine, which is also a very important part of like good mood, vigilance, people really want to do something, because depression is just opposite, right? I don't want to do anything, just sleep and don't bother me, anybody.
Don't get up.
Don't get up.
Close the curtains, don't want to see the lights, things like that. No?
Exactly. So this is total opposite. So norepinephrine is very interesting, like part of our biochemistry as well. And it went up like 530%.
Wow.
Which is like extremely tremendous. Of course, it doesn't last all day, right? This is like pretty short term. But if you need like quick help, as you said.
Some people have a problem, get started in the morning, and they feel like depressed or whatever, and you go into you have one of these biohacks, and that overcomes the first 30 minutes, which is often, once you're in it, once you're at the office on your desk, and once you're starting your whatever you have to do, if you can overcome the initial like negativity, then you're in the flow, hopefully.
That's it.
So
it's a very good starter.
I did it. My first experience with ice baths or cold exposure was actually because I could never imagine myself going into Vltava, into the river here in Prague in the winter. But I was up in Estonia with my friends from YPO, and we went to sauna, and after that they encouraged us to go swimming in the Baltic Sea, which in January, if you compare it to Vltava, is like it's really
much colder.
The ice swimming there, and you have to you it's
break
probably close to 0 degrees, and so we all went in, and actually it was the most amazing experience. I only went here up to that, but for me, that was still a absolute quantum leap. And since this experience, I have no problem to going into Vltava in winter because it's 6, 7, 8 degrees. Yeah. So it actually feels a little bit not like the real thing. But I also felt this huge, for the whole evening, this huge feeling of being invincible, and the dopamine and whatever there was, serotonin probably in my brain rewarding me. So I think this is one of the most, especially after COVID, where so many people still struggling with mental health issues, that there is a relatively easy to have. I bought myself now one of these tons from Amazon, which are like foldable. You basically put it up. It costs €100. You fill it at the beginning of the winter with water, and you have your self-indulgent ice baths out in your own garden or on your terrace or on your balcony. And I learned from you in Mallorca that you don't have to necessarily every time go in with the full body. So now I stepped in a couple of times after Mallorca with my legs, and I stood in there and I put my hands in and did that for 3-4 minutes. And it was already that is a great wake up in the morning and a part of my morning routine.
That's wonderful.
So that I learned in Mallorca, definitely. That it doesn't have to be all the time like the full body in the ice, but putting the legs till the knees or maybe a little bit up, and then putting the arms and the hands in. It's actually a cold exposure in itself. And then maybe washing the face a little bit with the ice cold water. It's really a refreshing ritual.
And it's wonderful that it's available for everybody, but not everybody is able to.
€100, for the semi-professional way to.
That's right.
And it's really crispy clear cold water, and it's really refreshing.
Yeah, and everybody can also do it on the difficulty-wise, because some people don't want to immerse themselves in very cold water to the neck, right? When we do just extremities, or maybe half extremities, and addressing these parts of the body which are communicating temperature-wise with
especially when you go the whole way into the real freezing cold water, we would always encourage people to first have their health and heart checked out. But if you go in with your legs and with your arms and hands, I think it's pretty low.
It's very low
risk and also low. And
there's
no
way
doable.
something can happen and is doable. And you're talking about the face. It's another important part of the body which reacts very well to the cold.
Yeah, I found that actually.
Wonderful.
That's a really good.
It's kind of
biohack as well.
2080. When you don't have time or you don't want to anything, just palms or maybe lower extremities.
Exactly, and
legs
and the face. It's
face and it works fine.
And the other big topic, of course, apart from the cold exposure, is the strength training. So can you talk a bit about it?
For sure. So it's wonderful. When we see again the history of human species, we were cold. All the time.
Coming back to the history.
Yeah. So that's the reason why we actually there are some studies which are suggesting that mental issues are because we are not stressed enough. But I don't mean stress by invoices or phone calls, but by the natural things like it's cold or hot or the physical exertion as well.
Right.
So we definitely need it, because if I check most of my clients who came to me and they want to resolve some sleep issues, which are pretty common nowadays. That's what we know.
Very big.
Big topic, yeah.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of people are taking, sleeping medications. We know it's not the ideal solution because a lot of sleep medications puts you in some kind of coma, which looks like sleep. But actually, when you measure sleep, you see that they are deep sleep and REM sleep are pretty short. So those people are not really like resting. So definitely the natural rest and natural sleep is the best way to go around. And what's missing there usually, because those people are usually like high-level managers and executives, and they don't move enough during the day. They wake up, they got some coffee, they go slowly to their car, right, driving to the office, already starting being stressed, right? They spend 12 to 15 hours in the office, not moving much, just, sometimes go somewhere,
thinking about some of our friends at the moment doing this lifestyle, and yes, it's part of the reality nowadays.
And then they go home, and in the home, what they do, like having 1 hour dinner with the family, which is wonderful, but they are sitting again.
And then maybe 2 glasses of wine to calm down. And
2 glasses of wine, of course, at least two of them, right?
Maybe more,
Maybe more, and then they go sleep, right?
Exactly.
And they can't sleep because it doesn't work that way.
And the alternative is to train your muscles in the evening before you go to bed, or what's the...
It's not the best way, actually.
What's the best time of the day?
Because what we see from, again, if we return to the ancient people, they were walking heavily, for example. Like ancient person walked maybe 20, 30 kilometers every single day for most of the days in their life, right? Because if you're not ill, you're not lying, on the couch whole day. So, or working, facing computer, right? And sitting there for 8 hours.
You're always on the move.
You're moving. You're not moving.
You're also making sure you're not attacked by some tiger.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I wanted to get to, Wolfram, because that's show us the structure of the movement we should take on. And it doesn't mean that we need to run for ultra marathons or doing Spartan races or something very crazy. Of course, like some people likes that.
Sure.
But it's not longevity training. Longevity training is when you're moving subtly during the day. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing we call it office squats, when you are sitting on the chair and standing up, which works out, your thighs, your muscles.
So you simply just sit on your stool or chair, and you get up.
Sit down and you get up, and you use the techniques of muscle tension, right, to maximize work of your nervous system, because the maximum strain, is about nervous system actually.
Right.
Because the brain is connected, right, to our body to really be able to move it. And the muscle strain is just about brain telling through the nervous system hey, generate some force, right?
Yeah.
So we are in this way, we can definitely do more than just, sit down and stand up, but use this strain, which is used also during the strength training in the gym as well, because this is a secret of elite strength training. For example, if you look at elite lifters, for example, they never get stiff when they lift the weight. You need to get stiff or make the body strain much earlier.
They also continue breathing, I guess, which many people don't do when they...
They do, definitely. But you need to strain first, then they go down, then they grab the heavy stuff, and they are strained already for many seconds, and they lift it, right? So amateur people just catch it and then strain and then try to lift it. It doesn't work much because you don't have the tension build out. And this is something what we are working on with basically anybody who wants to be in a good condition. Doesn't matter if you are a marathon runner, if you are professional lifter, if you are normal CEO who's already 50 years old and having maybe a little bit more fat than you used to have when you were in your 20s, right? Or
many of them actually being much less fat because they have started to live a healthy lifestyle. They had a wake-up situation. I know both extremes. I know some which were almost underweight in the youth, and now they are extremely overweight. Or I know people who were extremely overweight and now have a near normal or even a super athletic
Yeah, everything is changing. That's very good to go in the good direction. So this is just supporting the good direction that we can do this kind of squats during the work time, right?
Because so you don't even think it's necessary to go to the gym. Your approach is to incorporate into daily work habits.
It's definitely very good to go to the gym, but most of the normal people can't make ideally you would be maybe lifting in the morning heavy weights and running in the afternoon. And there are people who are doing and there are some more Jocko Willing, very famous guy, right? He says every day I want to be lifting, training jiu-jitsu, running and surfing.
One famous German sports medicine doctor told me once, you don't have to exercise every day, only the days you're eating something.
yeah. So if somebody's fasting a lot, maybe not exercising that much. But I personally would say that do some full-time physical activity at least thrice a week is must-have. Ideally, do it 4 or 5 times a week at least. But if you go running for 30 or 60 minutes in the evening, it doesn't save you, even if you do it every single day, from the horrors of sitting down, right? So if you're sitting in the office, you should break the sitting every time you can, and sometimes it can be once in 20 minutes, sometimes it can be once in 2.5 hours, but you don't want to sit all day, right?
And the fitness trackers nowadays, they even have the function to remind you. They vibrate every, 60 minutes, 45 minutes to remind you to get up. And
some people are bothered by that. You're doing some deep work and it's bothering you, but there are a lot of such functions. But I approach it in, that's something what I call habit building.
Yeah.
And that's something what we are working on the application of, as I was mentioning before, because
I will put it in the link later on your application.
Thank you for that.
As soon as it's out.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, because this is something we want to help people to build habits. And for example, one of my very practical tips is use some physical object which looks very weird to you and put it on your working desk.
So when you see the duck, the plastic duck, yellow, on your desk, you think about, now it's time to do my squats.
Exactly.
I encourage some friends to do their daily conference calls on their iPhone walking in the park.
That's wonderful.
That's another one
that's
which
very
some
good.
people took up now.
Yeah. And there are a lot of tricks like that, how to incorporate movement into the day. And this can literally save our lives. So when there's the pyramid, when you don't have to sit, you can stand up, and a lot of people are using standing desks, right? You can stand for a few tens of minutes per day while working on a computer. It's very easy. You don't need to fancy facility for 30,000 crowns, right? But you can have a big box and put your monitor on it, and stand behind the table, and it's really, companies are sometimes afraid that they need to invest so much money into it. It's for free if you do it in a clever way. Using stairs, for example, it's wonderful, right?
We have in our Prague 4 clinic, if you look at it when you come next time, it says healthy stairs, so you can walk down from the.
I didn't notice that last time. So good.
You can actually walk up to our floor. And it's actually done in a nice way. It was there already. It wasn't our invention. It was Skanska who built the building. Who wanted to incorporate.
And how many floors do you have? You got
we've got 8 floors.
8 floors.
You can go up to the 4th floor by
stairs.
And we happen to be in the 4th floor. Again, a coincidence if coincidence exists. So our doctors use it.
That's very good.
They make a point of using the stairs every day. So
and that's wonderful. And it's one of the things we are talking about as well. Yeah, that doctor is somebody who should represent this kind of lifestyle. If you're
the problem with doctors, they want to do that, but when I say the problem, the issue is with their education is, unfortunately, if they go to medical school, they're not gonna taught, I believe, even the topics we're discussing today. In the whole medical school, and I attended the lifestyle medicine conference in Boston at the Harvard Medical School, and the instructor asked hands to show hands. How many doctors were taught about nutrition and about exercise and about sleep, and you hardly saw any hands out of maybe 900 doctors.
900,
and maybe you saw 5, 6 putting their hand up. So
So you are somewhere like in the, space of the elite, health education.
So what we do now is the doctors who join Concierge, they all join the European Lifestyle Medicine Association, and we sponsor that. And we also sponsor the annual conference participation. It was this year in Budapest. We were there with 13, 14 colleagues. We were there in Athens the year before with about 15 doctors. And we now teach them and help them further their education. And as soon as they know all these tips and all these good routines, they happily share it with their patients. Before we train them, they don't know about all this. And it makes a huge difference between in the relationship between the patients and the doctors, that patients see that the doctor takes care about how to live longer and healthier, and we equip them with the tools and the knowledge.
That's right. So it's so needed nowadays because, for example, when I remember, I was talking about breaking up with the girlfriend, right, and starting with ice cold therapy. Yeah. So the girlfriend at the time had a best friend, and her best friend was the same age as we were at the time, like when we were starting our relationship, like in my 21 or 22 years of age. And her best friend.
She gonna listen to the podcast, you think?
I don't know if she follows me.
You want to send her a message? Feel free to, but
maybe, yeah. And her best friend, despite being pretty young, she was already on antidepressants, right? And
it's very common nowadays.
It's very common, sadly among young people as well, right? But when you watch her lifestyle, I don't have to be like, Harvard Medical School PhD to really see that there's something wrong. Maybe even with her doctor who prescribe the medications, because psychopharmacological medications it's not funny, right? There are a lot of things which can go wrong. It's not like it's good tool, but we need to be very,
but of course it needs
very careful with that, right?
It needs the doctor to evaluate who is benefiting,
especially for young people, right, who are still developing. Like if she was 22, you're still developing, right? Your brain is developing as well still. So. But she started, we are talking about lifestyle, right? Because she was starting day with a cigarette or two, coffee or two, sitting...
Which you call six style, by the way.
Yeah, six style, definitely. And she was sitting somewhere in like very dirty part of the city center, which weren't very beautiful anyways. And I would be depressed. I was joking, I would be depressed in this situation as well, without any reason, because it's depressing by itself. And she was on medications for many years, and it's something was definitely could be like
sadly the reality that some people are on antidepressants for their whole life.
And we have definitely other options what to try and how to help people to have a better biochemistry, have a better mood,
Of course, in lifestyle medicine,
exercising.
In lifestyle medicine, we always look what is medically indicated, and our doctors always prescribe this or will prescribe this, and then they're looking to offer alternatives on top of that, with the aim that hopefully one day, for example with diabetes, that patients are treated by the protocols, but on top we are offering tools to hopefully one day reduce the medication or get rid of the medication. So I think that's the power of lifestyle medicine. And same applies with antidepressants, because once people start using certain routines like cold exposure, exercise, CBT in terms of, for example, psychotherapy, that one day they feel empowered to live without medication. That's the ultimate goal, of course, of any doctor.
That's it, and that's something.
Most doctors.
Most doctors. Definitely lifestyle medicine doctors.
Definitely
right?
for lifestyle medicine.
And I think it's a wonderful approach, because some people are demonizing medications, right? But when
we don't do that, we say medication as a
good tool.
Place,
it's a wonderful tool, right?
Sometimes it's needed to take people out of their.
Sometimes people are suffering terribly, and
absolutely.
It's very good to have this kind of tool.
If you can complement it and know how to complement it, it's a powerful combination. It's one of these combinations where 1 and 1 can make 10. Equals 10. So
that's very.
I was
very
a bit
good.
scared when you said in the morning would be good to do the heavy lifting, the heavy weights. Does it always need to be heavy lifting? Does it need to be 100 kilo? Can it not be like 20 kilo and more repetitions? What is, because some people are afraid of big weight and the injury and the blood pressure and so on. So what's your philosophy on that?
And there's scientific evidence behind that is pretty straightforward. You need to lift heavy. Because light weights are not doing much for you. You can build some muscle mass by lifting lighter weights multiple times. But if you want to build your cardio, right, you need running in zone 2, like, conversational pace running, which you keep for tens minutes or maybe even hours.
What Peter Attia made famous in his podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Zone 2, Zone 3.
And he's talking about zone 2 like
all
being
the time now.
Important part of the training as well. With our friend, or your friend, my new friend, Gene, right? He was guest here on the podcast.
Gene. I hope you're well. Greetings to Ireland or Italy or wherever you are.
And Gene obviously is running quite a lot and quite often. And this is something what everybody should do if you have time on your disposal. For example, you don't have young kids, or new career or something what you really need to care about. And the older we are, the more important it is, right? Because if a young person breaks the training for 1 month or even 6 months, maybe because of injury and so, he or she can back pretty fast. But if somebody's like maybe 65, 70, you're not going to be like so fast with your getting back. So we definitely need to build a good base, and with the strength training, you shouldn't have to lift to failure, which used to be like pretty popular among bodybuilders. You lift so much that you can't do it anymore, This is not very healthy actually, because it breaks down a lot of muscles, and it's you're so sore afterwards, and you are tired, and that's not what we want.
So how do I find out how many kilos of bench press or curls or whatever the right expression is considered heavy enough so it has a good effect?
It's actually pretty easy to discover, because for first you need to find moves which use multiple joints and practice rather more muscle groups than less.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I'm a great fan of...
bench pressing is not necessarily...
Bench pressing is not necessary, but it's fine. Why not? It's like, for some people it might be pretty aggressive to shoulders, but it's one of the exercises which is used as well. Also, the big advantage is that you need to use your, let's say, coordination, because the weight, it can go anyway. So you need to balance it, which is very good for your nervous system as well, and for muscle coordination, which is very important. Some people are lifting, I'm sorry for saying that, in a very dumb way. And for example, you're just pushing something up and you have it in some kind of, it can't fall down. Sometimes it's like reasonable for very old people, for example. You don't want to mess them up. But for people who really have this muscle ability, there's no reason to do some very fixed movements, just like this, for example. So really, the free weights are a very good way how to train, or maybe kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. And you should be able to do not more than, let's say, 6 repetitions, 5 or 6 should be your max.
Heavy enough and not heavier than doing around 5 to 6, basically.
Yeah, and you should have some in a bank, as we say. So maybe you could do 7, not more than 8, definitely. And maybe you could, if you could do maybe 5 reps with the weight, you can do 3 or 4.
And
so you always have some in
What's the relation
bank.
to the blood pressure? Because you often hear or you often read that heavyweights have the downside of pushing up blood pressure aggressively. Who needs to worry about this?
It's definitely, if you lift a heavy deadlift, for example, definitely your blood pressure is going up, because you also need to hold your breath, so you stabilize your core.
So you always hold your breath when you push up weights. You never continue like you would do in Pilates.
That's matter on the movement which you're performing actually. But in the deadlift, you're handling pretty big weight, right? Usually it's your body weight, or 1 point something of your body weight. So it's not like 10 kilos, but it's maybe 60, 70, 80, 130 kilos or bigger weight.
Can people who weigh 130 really lift 130, 150 kilos? Is it?
Yeah.
Does strength come in multiplier of your body weight?
That's matter on your physical condition, of course, but they say like even beginners after some basic technical training should be able to lift their body weight with a deadlift, right? And some people who are like pretty intense exercisers, they have the aim lifting twice as much as their body weight.
Now I'm afraid.
Yeah. So this is something, if somebody's weighing maybe 70 kilos, right? So it's 140, which definitely needs some training. It doesn't happen like that. It can take many months of sophisticated training, lifting maybe 3 times a week in certain special program. But it's attainable, right? If you want it, you can have it in 6 months or so.
Just like the one-leg squat you showed me in the restaurant the other day.
One leg squat is another of my favorite exercises. And for example, deadlift and one leg squat are two of my most favorite exercises, which I'm performing during my morning workouts. And this is something what I was talking about, training to fatigue, right? That you shouldn't be actually tired after a training, which is usually...
But you should have, again, a nice feeling of dopamine in your brain or
You will have. But sometimes you don't, because sometimes you feel you exercise too little. And that's good.
Interesting.
And it's much better to have feeling that you exercise too little than have feeling that you exercise too much. Yeah. Right. Because this is something what, especially for busy people in companies and so on, as we are talking about, you need so much energy and energy for decision making, and then afterwards energy for your family and so on. So you're not here for getting like tired in the morning from the gym or from some personal workout. So that's one of the reasons why I really love strength training for anybody, and doesn't mean if you are like very young or very old, if you are 15 or 115, but you can do light. It's light because you can do 2 sets. You can do 1 set. You don't have to it can be very short time-wise, which is also very convenient for us as a busy people. But you use heavy weights, and you can do it pretty often. I have my kettlebells in my home. And
why is it called deadlift, by the way?
I have no idea. Because young people can do it. It can be like life lift. Maybe it would be because every single child can do it without training, right? They know
and it's
how to
basically for people who don't know the expression or the term deadlift. It's basically just picking up the weight and pushing it above your.
You're not
your head
pushing it above. You're just picking it up.
Are you just picking it up? Okay.
Yeah. As you have a kit. You give kid something like you have bag with maybe oranges, or you bought something in the shop, and you have the classical bag, right, which you can grab, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a young child and they want to lift it, they usually use the deadlift, so-called, for lifting it up. So they bend their hips, they bend a little bit their knees, but they have straight back. I don't mean they are up, but they don't, don't break the structure, and they lift it in perfect position, and they lift it just enough you can carry it, but you don't lift it like up more. So it's very convenient if you are handling like bigger weights, like 100 kilos, which is pretty possible for adult men to get to by some training if you do it frequently. It's very convenient to lift it in this way, and it's wonderful for hormonal system, nervous system, and so on.
Very good. Okay. Maybe one topic I wanted to quickly ask you about. You were telling me you want to come to our clinic for VO2 max testing.
For sure. Yeah.
You're very welcome to come. But tell us a little bit more about it, because I'm sure few people don't know about VO2 max and why it's important.
That's a very interesting topic, because we covered, some cold exposure, maybe saunas as well. So you have some like temperature extremes, right? Very useful for health. We have strength training because we are built for that, and it was one of the most important things for anti-aging and longevity is having healthy and powerful muscle mass. But we also need some endurance. Of course. So you were mentioning Peter Attia, right? A big name nowadays about this research. And he's talking about zone 2 cardio, which is pretty easy. You're just, running fixed, let's say, fixed cadence. You're not quicker or slower or so. But VO2 max, and he has a specialized protocol for training VO2 max as well. VO2 max is something was traditionally connected with sportsmen, mainly professional sportsmen, because part of the sport medicine, right, mainly. And it's about how much of kilos of oxygen per minute can your body use. Actually. So
before you get into the lactate.
So actually, how much oxygen you can use, because the more you can use, the more energy basically you can produce, and more effective your last, machine. And the highest numbers in the world which were measured was something like 93 or 95, if I remember
What's your? You come to us. What's your number you would be happy with?
That's a good question.
I want you to know before you come, because
I don't know what I would. Maybe it would be good that I would be better than Gene, but it's going to be difficult actually. He's pretty good condition. He's one category below professional in his age, and he would be fair in category fair, which is middle for people who are 20 to 30. So Gene is really good with his VO2 max. So I also want to prepare with some, some specialized training, and that's what Peter Attia talking about, running for 4 minutes as fast as you can, but keep
That's zone 4, or
we can call it this way. I'm not really sure. Some different trainers have different zones. Some of them use 5, some of them 6.
To increase your VO2 max, is zone 2 enough, or do you have to, as a non-professional athlete, is zone 2 enough, or do you need to push yourself into zone 3 or 4?
It's definitely good to time train this, pushing it harder.
And it could be minutes, no? I mean,
definitely.
In your overall exercise regime.
Yeah, there's something called
1-2 minutes where you really push
high
yourself,
intensity interval training, when you push it 15 to 30 seconds, as much as you can, and then you are resting for several minutes. It's good training as well, because we usually don't get so much heart rate up. In zone 2 cardio, you never get so much high. So this is very interesting.
Because you should be in zone 2, you should be able to have a casual conversation.
Which is pretty easy, you get a little bit higher, but you're not crazy high with your
I'm look forward to making some photos when you do your VO2 max, when you give it to your full power. And,
because it's pretty unpleasant, right?
It's a longevity marker, no? One of the main ones.
It is. And Peter Attia talks about it in a very, very vivid manner, because a lot of people, testing mitochondrial activity and different, it's called hallmarks of aging.
Yes.
It's pretty complicated biochemistry, and there's not that much evidence.
There's not that much
from
evidence, but
some
for
sources.
VO2 max, it's
but
also
VO2 max,
I just had it done at the Mayo Clinic when I was there in December, so they really believe in it. And
so even Mayo Clinic, which is really prestigious and well-respected source, VO2 max is good, and it's no bullshit approach, right?
Absolutely.
You need to be running, and you can measure it.
And and you can use it on as your baseline, and then start your training, and then look after 6 months. Do I go the right direction? If not, you can fine tune. Maybe you do not enough. Like zone 3 or 4, you do too much in zone 1 or 2, Libor, listen, they're already starting to soon knock on the door. It's always a fascinating topic. I'm really happy we were able to scratch on the most important points. I know from our time in Mallorca we could talk hours and hours, but
I guess so.
We have a certain amount of time. So thank you very much again, Libor.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to also put your website and your LinkedIn into the comments field of this video. It was great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy to be our guest.
Thank you.